The 1970s was a dangerous time for New York City. With gang violence on the rise, people were wary of a new gang-centric film by Walter Hill, releasing early in 1979. Protests broke out over the supposed glorification of violence and promotion of gang culture.
We've seen what it's done to people, and we read in the papers about the violence that's been inspired by this kind of movie. And we just don't think children should be allowed to see this movie, let alone adults.
Maybe they were right about the former. From what I could find online, 3 deaths occurred. Whether it was pre-screening violence or after-movie attacks, it was enough for Paramount and theaters to agree to pull the movie and ads for a short time to allow audiences to cool down, releasing it a few weeks later with no more incidents. What was it about this movie that got people worked up to the point of violence? Were the protesters right? Or is the cult classic status that the film holds now justified? Let's find out. The opening of The Warriors is the weakest part of the movie. We get a lot of time spent on showing the other gangs that don't appear later in the film, and not enough time getting to know the Warriors as a whole. The very first shot of the Warriors we see is of the leader, who is not outright named. You have to kind of figure it out from context clues, which could be a good decision depending on the film, but in a movie focused around several different characters, it's a poor decision. On my very first watch, I was confused half the time when characters referenced off-screen members, and I had no clue who they were talking about. After the movie, I went and Googled the cast just so I could put faces to the names, except for one character, Ajax. He's quite the wild card.
Meeting some strange wool. I wouldn't mind laying a little something down on the way back.
You got a one-track brain, you know that?
What's the matter? You going faggot?
That was really bad.
We may not get anyone's names, but we get an idea of what the Warriors are walking into, such as a truce being called among all the gangs during the meeting, the rumors about what Cyrus is really like, and that no one is supposed to be armed during their little get-together. Thank goodness for the funky background music during this, with its snappy drums and groovy synth keyboard coming in to make up for the lack of proper character introductions. In fact, the music in this movie is quite strong, giving us a solid mix of rock, funk, and early electronica too. It all blends itself seamlessly into the final product, giving us something only the 70s could produce. After the intro, we're dropped into the gang meeting, with hundreds of gangs present. I like how they filled the space with actors. It gives you a good sense of scale, and it shows how important and respected Cyrus must be. Speaking of, Cyrus emerges from the crowd and delivers the most iconic line of the film.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Can you dig it? That is just so goofy. I love it. Anyway, Fox moves in to get a closer look, but at the same time, Luther, the leader of the Rogues, brandishes a pistol and shoots Cyrus. Luther takes aim at Fox because Fox saw Luther brandishing the weapon, but he manages to escape because of the hysteria and slips back in with the Warriors, who in turn move in to check on Cyrus's condition, confirming his death and giving Luther a chance to pin the blame on them. Throwing the heat off himself, Cleon is then ambushed and killed while the others flee. We then cut to a radio host who broadcasts to the gangs of New York, informing all of the hit placed on the Warriors by the biggest gang in the city, the Gramercy Riffs. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but we'll go with it. The Warriors must make it from the Bronx to Coney Island on foot while being pursued by all manner of gangs. This is a great way to set up the conflict for our protagonists, showing us the villain and how they frame their protagonists, giving us the question, how will they survive the trip home and overcome the false allegations? From here on, I describe this as a condensed version of a Saturday morning cartoon. And what I mean by that is every 10 or so minutes, we encounter a new villain of the week and deal with them quickly before promptly moving on to the next. The first one the Warriors meet is on their way to the train platform, a bus filled to the brim with gang members patrolling the area. This is where Ajax bursts out in frustration at the fact that they aren't rushing to the platform, likely due to him not being put in charge.
Come on, what kind of chicken shit crap is this?
Man, there ain't nobody on the street.
He's right. We're acting like faggots.
You can't keep getting away with it!
They rush and barely avoid the bus, but make the train, giving the gang a small break. We're given another look at Luther and the Rogues. They arrive at a newspaper stand, and Luther makes contact with someone to see what the word is about the Warriors. The rogues are worried the Warriors will have a chance to confess the truth about Luther before they get killed. We see Luther's true colors here. He's very unconcerned and aggressive towards everyone here, his gang and the cashier, robbing the place on top of everything.
Hey, what about the money you owe?
Suffice it to say, he's not a very good guy. The Warriors are forced off the train by a barricade created by another gang. They continue on foot and encounter the next gang, the Orphans, and are actually able to talk with them and get the leader's blessing to pass in peace. That is until we meet Mercy, an antagonistic, loudmouth groupie who eggs the Orphans into attacking the Warriors. Intrigued by the Warriors' resistance to her, let's call it charm. Yeah, charm. She follows them and ends up tagging along with them from here on. After the Orphans surround them and threaten them all, they cause a diversion and escape towards another train. Surely this one will work. The gang actually makes it to the next station, but the police are looking for gangs because of the meeting earlier and catch our gang on the train, forcing them to once again flee. This time, the group is split into many groups, and Fox gets grabbed while running with Mercy. Fox struggles and is actually thrown onto the tracks in front of a moving train, making him our second casualty of the Warriors. That is such a brutal way to go. I was not expecting him to get taken out like that. Apparently no one is safe, raising the stakes from here on. So far, no real injuries have occurred to the Warriors on the trip back, so this one hurts. Vermin, Coach Ice, and Rembrandt make it to the train leading to Union Square. Meanwhile, Snow, Swan, Ajax, and Cowboy make it topside and are confronted by my favorite gang, the Baseball Furies, leading to a cinematic and action-packed chase scene where the Warriors are jumping and ducking under everything in their path, while the Furies chase behind, jogging effortlessly with bats in hand. The suspense here is fantastic, with the music building and growing more suspenseful as the chase wears on, making way for the wild showdown in the park, where Swan is able to obtain a bat from a Fury member, while Ajax is having his own chance at doing the same.
I'll shove that bat up your ass and turn you into a popsicle.
The tides turn, and the Warriors emerge victorious. The gang continues through the park, and they pass a woman sitting alone. Swan, Snow, and Cowboy continue on, but Ajax, being a menace to society, stays behind to talk with the woman. Just like Luther, Ajax shows more of his true self and attempts to force himself on the woman. She handcuffs him to the bench, as she was an undercover cop looking for gang members. She calls in backup, enraging Ajax and forcing him to attempt to break free. I thought he was going to break his thumb in an attempt to flee, but no. He tries to drag the fence, little to no avail. Backup arrives, and Ajax is swiftly dealt with.
You're under arrest, Nimrod.
Surprisingly, Snow and Cowboy went back to make sure Ajax was okay. When they arrive, well, they promptly change their mind and leave.
Look, Pim, I know it's our job to help this guy and everything, but I think this guy's a lost cause. He's obviously made up his mind. Why don't we just cut our losses and get out of here?
Swan arrives back at the station where he unexpectedly meets Mercy again. She actually waited for the Warriors instead of running off, and thankfully, she got a small wardrobe change. They try to make the next train, but more police arrive, forcing them onto the tracks and into the tunnels. They're able to continue from here, where Swan and Mercy are actually able to get to know one another. Swan confessing he doesn't much care for Mercy. In turn, she tells him why she lives the way that she does.
I see what's happening next door and down the block. Belly hanging down, 5 kids, cockroaches in the cupboard. I want something now. This is the life I got left. You know what I mean?
This honesty clearly gets Swan to warm up to Mercy, changing his opinion of her, but he still pushes her away. For now. Meanwhile, the other members, Berman, Coach Ice, and Rembrandt, successfully make it to the next station without incident, and are greeted by a large group of women, who they approach. The women invite them to their clubhouse to rest and party. Rembrandt wants to get going and meet with the rest of the gang, but Coach Ice and Vermin aren't interested in leaving just yet. They stay and settle in and get more comfortable. The ladies introduce themselves as the Lizzies before launching an attack on the gang. They manage to get away and agree to continue to Union Square. Upon arrival at Union Square, Swan is stalked by a member of the Punks, our next villain of the week, before they make their grand entrance. The group meets up and takes stock of who got killed or caught. The Warriors make a quick plan to ambush the Punks in the bathroom, making for another crazy action scene, with the set breaking apart, people flipping around, and momentum swinging in both directions. The fights have been on point and make quite the spectacle. With their victory, the Warriors board the train and are headed back to Coney Island. Upon arrival, Luther and the Rogues greet them and begin to stalk them, forcing the Warriors into hiding. Luther gives us our next most iconic line of the movie, with the weirdest setup for it.
Warriors, come up to play!
What the hell is up with the bottles? Edward Bottle Hands is crazy over here. Swan leads the Rogues to the beach for the final confrontation. Swan bluntly asks Luther why he killed Cyrus. Luther gives the only real answer he could give.
No reason. I just like doing things like that.
Bruh.
But unfortunately for Luther, he confessed in front of the Gramercy Riffs, who have their own witness who corroborated the story. Luther is then taken by them and presumably executed. The Warrior's name is clear, and an apology is issued via the radio.
It turns out that the early reports were wrong. Sorry about that.
And the Warriors walk off into the sunset. All in all, The Warriors is a fun, suspenseful, and action-packed film that doesn't take itself too seriously and has fun with its characters and premise. I see now why this movie has garnered such a strong and dedicated cult following, spawning 2 video games, a graphic novel, and most recently, as of December 2024, a Broadway musical is in the works. Needless to say, the love runs deep for this movie. It deserves its title of a classic film. As for the protests and the violence, nothing in this movie is gonna make you stand up and go Scarface on the people around you. In fact, I think the director, Walter Hill, puts it best in an interview where he states, "I think the reason why there were some violent incidents is really very simple. The movie was very popular with street gangs, especially young men, a lot of whom had very strong feelings about each other. And suddenly, they all went to the movies together." Thankfully, the muddied release of this movie didn't prevent it from reaching the popularity it enjoys today. I strongly recommend giving this one a watch if you haven't seen it. What do you guys think of The Warriors? Did you grow up with this film? Or is it all new to you too? Let me know down below. I just want to say thank you so much for all the brand new subscribers. The influx has been amazing to see. Each and every one of you guys is amazing. I hope to continue to increase the quality of my videos to keep you guys entertained and informed. But for now, this is the Dinoaur. You all take care, and I'll catch you guys on the next rewind. Bye bye.